Hi, I'm Victoria Bond, and welcome to Mum's Time to Shine. How to connect to your soul's purpose and pursue it without sacrificing quality time and connection with your family. Today we have Maria Hunt joining us. Hi Maria, how are you?
Hey Victoria, good. How are you going?
I'm good. Your screen is, oh there we are. Your screen had frozen a little bit.
Well, it's cold today, so it's just freezing up. It's just defrosting.
Just defrosting. It is a bit cold over here in New Zealand too. Now, Maria Hunt specialises in poor digestion, immunity issues, hormonal disorders, candida. You work alongside a medical doctor, and you're the head of Australia for the Body Ecology Diet, which
Yes.
I'm really interested to hear about.
That-
So I wanted you on the show because I know that you have some incredible information about the body and how we're functioning. And I've already told you a little bit about my story about how
yeah.
every afternoon my body was shutting down and I was like paralyzed. So I couldn't even look after my kids. And even though I tried to make it out, it wasn't a big deal. It really was because I wanted to be with my kids.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us. And
Yeah.
first of all, I wanted to talk about the gut.
Mm-hmm.
So how much really does our gut affect the way we function?
It is everything for us, Victoria. If you think about it, we have 2 kilos of bacteria and in our digestive tract, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that, we have 85% good bacteria and 15% bad bacteria. And we can live like that. But when we have stress, poor diet, the pill, antibiotics, and there's a time and place, environmental, chemical pollutions and parasites, that knocks out the gut. So you may only end up with 40% good bacteria and 60% bad. And why is that so important is that 95% of our serotonin, our happy hormones, that comes from our gut, not our brain. And 85% of our immune system is manufactured in the lining of our gut wall. So if our gut is out of balance, it really has a great effect all the way through our body. So it's essential to get it up and balanced.
Right. And so does alkalizing come into this? Because when I was in my early 20s, I used to eat a lot of spinach and a little bit of meat, and mainly so I could drink wine and keep the balance. Otherwise, I'd get sick, so I'd be too acid. But I used to check my pH all the time. So alkalizing, what is that and how does it help?
Yeah, so alkalizing is really important in our body, and there's various foods that are alkalining, like lemons, our kefir, our sauerkraut. They're all alkalining. So acid and alkaline, that describes the nature of the food before it's eaten. But when it's acid forming, that describes the foods which make the body acid, or alkalizing, which make the body alkaline. So if you have too much acid foods and you've got stress and poor sleep patterns, and you'll be prone to chronic infections, and parasites can take over when we've got an acidic body. So from our point of view, we really like to be slightly alkaline. Otherwise, it's chronic fatigue, it's allergies, it's arthritis, it thrives, and also, some nasty cancers, etc. It thrives in an acid environment. So we want to be slightly alkaline.
What are some signs? I know, for instance, I get heartburn.
Yeah.
And if I've eaten the wrong foods, or if I know, and like right now I've got an itchy nose because I'm lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep, yeah. Just makes our body so we start to ache. We've got a fuzzy brain, we're agitated, and our gut will become, will create another imbalance with that. So we need to look at those alkalining foods, the ocean vegetables. From body ecology perspective, we use millet and amaranth and quinoa, lemons, limes, unsweetened pomegranate, cranberries, and all our cultured vegetables and our probiotic drinks. That's just to name a few. So we like to get the body back into that slightly alkaline positioning. So then it just takes the pressure off from that acid-forming body.
And that helps us to function better, gives us more energy when we're alkaline, more alkaline.
far more energy and clarity. You look good, feel good, and you've got that spring because your body is operating at an optimal level. Instead of being heavy and stressed and acid and poor sleep, you'll get a yeast and a candida, parasite overgrowth. All of that is associated with an acid body. So the more we eat the probiotic-rich foods, the cultured vegetables, the probiotic drinks, that then gets us back into balance. So we can help to eliminate the candida and the yeast and all of those overgrowth that take from us. They strip from our body and again lead into a leaky gut.
Is that why when we've had antibiotics, and even for our kids, that they recommend that we have probiotics?
Well, probiotics are, there's a time and place for antibiotics. That's against life, so it kills everything out. And probiotics are for life, so it goes back in and replenishes after it's been nuked with the antibiotics. So we definitely need probiotics. We used to get probiotics on our foods each and every day, like it would be just within our fruit and our vegetables. But now, it's cold storage and processed, so we're not getting that drip supply of beneficial bacteria each and every day.
Oh, so we should be taking them every day.
Yeah, we're taking the probiotics, getting the fermented foods in. We do a lot of work with cultured vegetables. We run classes in that, and the fermented probiotic drinks. I work directly in sync with Body Ecology, and in America with Donna and with Grainfields AGM Foods, where they make up all the fermented drinks. And, we have great, fermented drinks there about getting the body back into balance, replenishing the beneficial bacteria. It's essential.
And what I've actually noticed is on your website, you have all of these things that you can purchase them on your website, and do you send out to different countries and all that type of stuff?
Yes, yeah, we can ship into New Zealand. That's perfectly fine. We have the fermented drinks. I love the cocoa biotic, energy biotic, passion fruit biotic. They're the fermented probiotic drinks, the lactobacillus. So it's a lactic acid bacteria. That's a natural preserver for the beneficial bacteria. Then we have Vitality Super Green, which is so good because it's got the glutamine in there that helps with the digestive lining. So if people got leaky gut, for instance. Then we've got Super Spirulina Plus. That's power packed. That's rocket fuel. It's a green taste, but it's so good at cleansing and detoxing the body and collating heavy metals.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me, excuse my ignorance, but what is a leaky gut?
Okay, so if you just come back a section from that, is that if you've ever had any chronic diarrhea, constipation, gas, bloating, nutritional deficiencies, headaches, brain fog, memory loss, excessive fatigue, sugar cravings, arthritis, joint pain, or any like depression, anxiety, ADD, ADHD, these can all be symptoms of a leaky gut. So what a leaky gut actually is, or intestinal permeability, is when the lining of the small intestine becomes damaged, there's little tight junctions between the cells, and that makes up the intestinal lining. So when they're damaged, it creates like a gap. And with this gap, undigested food particles, toxic waste, bacteria, it leaks into the intestines, and then that goes into the bloodstream. One of the main irritants and inflammatory markers for inflammatory foods is gluten. So if you've got a leaky gut or any of those signs of gut distension, etc., gluten it just inflames the whole body. Also dairy, sugar, processed foods, excess alcohol, all of that inflammatory foods for a leaky gut. And then you can get other infectious causes too, like candida overgrowth, intestinal parasites, or SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. They can all contribute to a leaky gut.
Wow. So can we fix this by having like the super greens and the probiotics and...
Yeah. So you've got to remove the irritants first. So that's the sugar and also bad oils, vegetable oils, soya beans, canola, or poorly raised meats, etc., that are full of antibiotics, toxins, and that's causing inflammation. So when we remove the irritants and we're dealing with the bacteria, the yeast, the pathogens, the parasites, then that we can help to, repair that damage that's been done to the small intestines, to the lining. Vitality Super Green, as we said, is very good with the glutamine there. You can get digestive enzymes. And we look at foods that are like an anti-inflammatory, like your omega-3s, your wild fish. And I'm sure you get great fish over there in New Zealand. Fish oil is wonderful for helping to reduce inflammation. Also, vitamin D is excellent, and I use K2 to help with the uptake of the vitamin D. That helps reduce inflammation in the body.
Oh, wow. And what are the signs of having a leaky gut? Like you were saying, like fatigue and stuff. Can children have this? Can we look out?
Yeah, most definitely. So any of the kids, etc., who are ADD or on the spectrum, ADHD, basically the precursor will be a leaky gut. So, and if they're irritable and they're prone to parasites, if they've got eczema, anything like that, then we know that bloating, their immune system is suppressed, that extra gas that they've got, or they're constipated, they're signs that the children are suffering from leaky gut.
Wow, it's just something you wouldn't really think about.
And you have to get on top of it straight away, because it just leads to so many other imbalances that, we want to get the kids whilst they're, when you've got the kids at home with you before they go to school, you can do so much good, because you're not competing with, birthday parties, 20, 30 other birthday parties in the year once they hit school, or the foods that they're exposed to there with friends, etc. So if you can get in and heal the gut of a child at earliest age, that makes such a difference.
So this might be a little bit off what we're talking about, but my children were real screamers. So as soon as I had my kids, they came out screaming, and they seemed to, I don't know if it was my milk or colicky, but they held onto their gas. So I've seen someone pick up their kid, or actually my sister-in-law picks up her child. She did a jiggle. She literally did a jiggle. And then she put him back down for a sleep, and I went, "You're going to burp your child?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" And it wasn't until I realized that the way I was functioning with my children, and they were screaming, their tummies were tight, and this was until they were like 1, wasn't normal. Does that lead on to anything? Or was it?
Any of the babies born, with the colic, the cradle cap, the reflux, the screaming, that's such indicative signs of a yeast infection. So did you have any yeast imbalances during the pregnancy, any thrush, anything like that? Because that can contribute through to the baby, and then when they're born, they've got that screaming, they're unsettled, so they can have the colic, the cradle cap, and the reflux, which again is a yeast infection. So we need to get in and get that yeast infection under control.
And can that be eczema and all that type of stuff as well with that? Because I know my niece is riddled with eczema. And I was just going to say, it doesn't, like, she's not on gluten or dairy or anything like that, but she can have a strawberry and then she just goes. So we have to be so careful. If she even looks at a piece of citrus, she's just, scratching all night long.
Bingo. What can happen there is so much eczema is related back to the liver. Now, and then again, that can also relate back to unexplained eczema is coming back into oxalates. Remember, we spoke earlier about oxalates that naturally occur in foods. I'm so passionate about oxalates at the moment, because it's just being so overlooked, and so many children, teenagers, anyone trying to be healthy, the elderly, they've got an oxalate overload, and this is causing so many of those unexplained mystery illnesses.
What is an oxalate?
Okay, so I know, it's just that we were talking, I love it. Okay, so oxalates naturally occur within our foods, mainly plants and fruits and nuts. And so they're tiny pieces of glass So they're naturally occurring there to prevent herbivores coming in and attacking them. So they're bitter tasting. You know when you have the strawberry or you have the kiwi fruit and you get that little irritating, yeah, that's the oxalate. So that oxalate serves a purpose. It protects the plant against any predators, which is fine. Now, there's no nutritional value, and it's cleared out in our body with our urine and our stools. However, if you have had antibiotics, etc., and if you fail to have the oxalate-loving bacteria, Oxalobacter formigenes, then you won't be able to break down that oxalate. So that shard-like glass can be a precursor for leaky gut. It can really carve up your gut, your digestive tract, and wreak havoc. Okay. Also, too, the oxalates bind to calcium, magnesium, iron, and zinc. Mm-hmm. And so, especially with children, and then they're stripped out of the body, so they have a nutritional deficiency then. Also, too, as you were talking earlier about kidney stones, is if you've got an imbalance with the oxalate and calcium within your body, you can form crystals. So when the antibiotics come in and kill off the formigenes, then we're left open to being exposed to an oxalate overload. Mm-hmm. So remember we said about the small intestine and the leaky gut, it creates gaps there. So normally only 1 or 2% will go through of any foods, etc., through the intestines, the small intestines. But when you've got a leaky gut, it opens up the gaps so oxalates can flood through, and then they can build up in your body. And you get a massive build up anywhere in your body. It can be in your nose, in your sinuses, in your chest, in your arms, in your brain, anywhere at all you can get an oxalate build up.
Is that like I know, especially when I haven't been very well, like in the past, even pre-children, when I got the kidney stone, I had in my feet like crystals. You know when? Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting because and even in my hands sometimes when you're someone massaging your feet and it's like. Mm-hmm. And then at the bottom of my foot, like on the ball of my foot, I couldn't even walk on it. It was like this massive callus, and it was so sore it couldn't even be touched. And that was actually not long before I got my kidney stone.
Exactly, that's it, Victoria. So the oxalates, they will just go to anywhere in the body. As I said, the nose, the joints, the kidney, urethra, the bladder, the brain, the gut, the joints. Okay, and they deposit there. And so you've obviously had a build-up. Now, when you get those kidney stones, and boy, oh boy, you would have known it when you got those kidney stones.
Worse than giving birth.
Oh, it is horrendous. I've had clients that just say, want to die. Yeah. But if you're dehydrated, if you're not drinking enough water, eating too much protein or high salt or sugar, or have a leaky gut, you'll be prone then to coming into these stones. So the most common stones they're called calcium oxalate stones. And so they form into these crystals. And when they begin to form, then they all stick together there. The crystals stick together and form a solid mass with the oxalates and the calcium. And that's your kidney stone. And with that, then you're trying to pass that through the urine. And if you're depleted, if you're dehydrated, too much oxalates, that then is just horrendous pain. And you're trying to pass that.
And it literally did not. Like when I was in labour, you know, I had a contraction and it was the pain and then it would go down. This was exactly the same type of pain, but it wouldn't go down. It would keep going up, 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 up until you were just like, oh my God. Like the pain level was like 12 out of 10. It was mental.
Oh, they rate up there. I mean, they'll drop any person who's got high pain tolerance, like they're just excruciating.
I was white. I was actually white, and you're trying not to throw up because that's the pain that you're in. So I would do anything not to have a kidney stone again.
You want to stay on a low to medium oxalate diet,
right?
So with oxalate issues, okay, they've lost their formigenes bacteria, or they don't digest fats properly, and so the calcium binds to the fat but leaves the oxalates free flowing in there. or they've got an inflamed leaky gut. So you've got to get that under control. So the oxalates come in via foods. They also are converted to what it's called arabinose. That's a yeast marker. You can do an organic acid test by Great Plains Laboratory, William Walsh, and it'll tell you what's happening there. Or we can actually produce our own metabolic pathway to having oxalates being produced within our body. Here's the other thing too that's so interesting with it, Victoria, is that so many people, they'll come to me, so they decide to go healthy. And so they have the smoothie, they have the almond milk, the raw cacao, the beet greens, then they'll go for lunch and then they'll have a big spinach salad, the nuts, soya protein, the tofu or sesame seeds. Then for snacks, it's dark chocolate with almonds, macadamia. That's an oxalate bomb. So that is such a high oxalate diet that if you've got a good gut, so no leaky gut, and you've got the oxalate-loving bacteria, you'll be able to utilize that. But if you've got those other two hiccups, then you're taking these oxalates and then it's storing in your body. So we need to have a varied diet. But unfortunately, some people can make a few high oxalate food their staples in their diet, like black pepper and spinach and sesame seeds and nuts and cacao, spinach. So when they make that the staple, that's when they start to come unstuck.
What about broccoli?
Broccoli is, okay, it's a medium oxalate. Now, it just depends too. So with that is that if you boil that up and then discard the water and rinse it, then you can actually, you won't remove the oxalates completely, but you'll leach them out. And so then it'll be fine. So there's certain ones of those high oxalate foods that if you boil it up, rinse it off, then you can eat it, like red skin potatoes, quinoa, for instance. If you soak quinoa overnight, then come back, and when I soak it, I always put a little bit of cocobiotic energy, the fermented drink, to break down the phytic acid. When you soak that, then rinse it off and cook it and rinse it, that then leaches out the oxalate. So then it's fine to eat.
So with potatoes, if we're feeding our kids potatoes, should we peel them? Does that make a difference?
Okay, so it's not so much that, because the oxalates will be part of that potato, right. But if we have a red skin potato, and if you do peel it and you boil it, then throw the water out, then it lowers the oxalate content within that food. Also too, depending on, so you can go to a different site about oxalate levels. One of the main international researchers, the biomedical researcher for oxalate, is Susan Owens, and she's an Australian girl. She's brilliant. Mm-hmm. Now she'll have a list, and when you check onto other lists of other foods, etc., they may vary. So this is because the conditions of the soils, the time of harvest, and the genetic species, the differences that occur within different countries. So some oxalate content will vary, but that's okay. I mainly just stay with Susan Owens. I think she's brilliant, and she's got so much research with it.
Wow, it's so interesting. I actually had someone staying with me on the weekend, and she's only in her mid-50s, and she said to me, I'm scared. She goes, I feel like my body is like, she woke up and she could barely get up. She's scared of even going up and down stairs. She can't lift anything. She's only in her mid-50s, and she's always been super healthy. She's never drunk alcohol, never smoked, never done drugs. She is literally what you would see as a healthy person. And she said, I don't know what's going on. And I said, I reckon it's oxalates. And I said, I'll find out more after my interview with Maria Hunt. But she said her joints feel like they're bone on bone, and her back feels like it's going to collapse. Like she said, I'm scared.
Well, there's so many, there's so many things that could be wrong with her, but I would definitely go to the oxalates and go into a low to moderate oxalate diet just to experiment with that. The other thing when you start off on a changing your diet around, always check with your doctor if you have any medical issues, etc. But what happens is, because you've stored oxalates in your joints or your bladder or your brain, etc., is you want to just slowly change your body around. If your diet, if you change your diet too quickly, what can happen? It's called oxalate dumping, and the body then just dumps the oxalates out, and it can really painful, and it's just like, wow, what is going on here? So you just want to slowly change the foods around, bring in lactobacillus bacteria, and that's where the energy, the cocoa, the passion fruit biotic are very good. Also bifidobacteria, L-plantarum, they degrade oxalates, so have that with your foods. The other thing too I always get my clients to do is calcium citrate. Okay, it's a very inexpensive vitamin. If you take that about 20 minutes before a meal, the calcium will help bind to the oxalate, and citrate will help degrade the oxalate. Okay, or magnesium citrate, that's another good one as well. There's very things, also too, B6 is a very good one, because that helps block the uptake of the arabinose, remember the sugar there. B7, biotin, it dumps the yeast, because yeast and oxalates go together. Okay, so if that's why the body ecology diet is so good to have. I overlay the body ecology diet with the low oxalate diet, and then therefore I'm dealing with the yeast, I'm dumping the yeast, and I'm also then balancing out the oxalates. So yeah, there's so many ways. Also too, colonics and saunas. I'm a big believer in the far infrared sauna and colonics. Colon therapy is wonderful, getting rid of the toxins in our body.
Yeah, I've actually heard of that, and it's just there doesn't seem to be so much of it around here, but I'm sure you can always find it, really. So when we go to the toilet, what are we looking for? So I know this is always such a big subject, but in our children, I know my kid is a little bit sick right now, and you can always tell when it comes to their stools. And yours, you just know if you really, really stink, or someone goes, geez, that you think,
don't go in there after me now.
Is it what we're eating? Is it the gut? Is it what are we looking for?
What's really good is how do we know if we've got a healthy bum? So if we go to the loo, and it's also too so common with the kids, if we go to the loo and we're left with little nuggets floating on top, that can be a sign of dehydration, which we don't want, also too with the oxalates and acidic body. So dehydration and a lack of beneficial bacteria. So what we want to do, if it's floating nuggets on top, no, our backside's out of kilter. Or if we go to the loo and it's loose and it's diarrhea, we're losing our nutrients. So what we're after is 2 of these every day. They're like a banana with a smiley end. So they're the piece de resistance. 2 of those every day. No food particles within the stool, a walnutty colour, and minimal smell. Now, when we have that, and if you have 2 of those a day, how good does that feel? I mean, wow, we feel like we're on top of the world when we've got that happening. So, and the other thing too is the launching. So if you're having a banana with a smiley end, our healthy log, and if it just launches out and sinks straight to the bottom of the bowl, that can be a sign of undigested fibres. If we launch out and if it just stays floating, that can be a sign of undigested fats and oils. So what we want is our 2 healthy logs per day with our smiley end, where we launch, they float, gently subside. That then is a sign of a healthy bum. And that's what we want to aim for. If we can eliminate the toxins, get the beneficial bacteria up and going, and keep hydrated, that's how good we feel.
So someone was telling me recently about a little stool that you can get to put your feet up on the stool when you're going to the toilet. And it made perfect sense. So you put your feet up on a little stool, so then when your legs are up, like, I can't do it, but your legs are I'll demonstrate. But when you put your knees up, it helps you, it releases.
Yeah. So what happens is when we sit on the loo, we're in a poor posture for the anus and for the elimination passage to be able to let go. But when we sit on our stool and we put our legs up, then we're engaging our anal region to be able to eliminate. Okay, the rectum, the anus, all of that goes, and it makes such a difference if you can't get a stool, get some old phone books or whatever it is, but lift the legs up off the ground, and it makes such a difference on the elimination.
Well, and naturally, we haven't always had toilets. Like, it was probably more of a squat. In some countries, it still is.
Exactly. And the squat's wonderful. If you can get that squat happening, you can just eliminate so much easier. It's the same with having children. Lying on your back trying to give birth is just not natural.
Yeah.
It's coming back down. So it's great. So definitely get into the stools.
So the other thing I wanted to touch on is adrenals. How do you say it?
Adrenal.
Yeah.
Adrenal fatigue is huge now.
Yeah.
So what happens? We're all busy. We're running around. We're up late at night. This is in the ideal world, if we were to get up with the sunrise and go to bed with sunset, our adrenals and our life would be so much happier because we're in sync with nature. That's very hard to do. So at least if you could watch a sunset, that then starts to balance out the hormones within our body, and we help to kick in to get into melatonin to help into sleeping. So we're burning the candle, we're racing around as parents and trying to keep work going. Everything there is push, push, push. So our adrenals and our thyroid are our energy organs, and they go hand to hand. So if you've got low adrenals, you would definitely have a thyroid imbalance as well. And that's your weight, your skin, your hair, your bowels, all of that. Your thyroid is so, so important to keep balance. And now I think it's like an epidemic at the moment where so many women in particular have a thyroid imbalance. So that automatically says they've got adrenal imbalance. So the adrenals need to drip feed the minerals, the beneficial bacteria, and the B vitamins, just to start that alone. So we need that each and every day. You need the fermented probiotic foods and keep that high mineral content up in there to keep your adrenals happy. And you need sleep. You need to get off the devices and internet, all of that. Get off it at night. And I have just lamps on at night. I want the low light. I want to start and come down. I don't do, long phone calls at night. I don't, get onto social media or anything at night because I like to just let my adrenals just calm down.
And that's the thing. We are being superwomen. I've got a 3 and a 5-year-old while I'm creating a summit, while I'm building another business, while I'm doing a Facebook Live and then doing a workshop at night. And that's me just chilling, that's me having some downtime. And the thing is, so what is your 3 top tips for us, for someone like me who, obviously I've got my own little things I do as well, but the mums that are they're pulling up their hair, they're exhausted, they haven't slept, and they need some energy. What are your 3 top tips?
They need that energy. So with that, what you want to do is slowly eliminate sugar, because so many of the women will be living on the sugar, getting that coffee and the sugar in the afternoon to spike them, to keep them going. And that's them up, crash, spike, crash. So at least get into, like I said about the fermented drinks, they have 70 odd minerals alone within the fermented drinks, the cultured vegetables, etc. Have that, drip feed that in every day. Replace the sugar with small amounts of like stevia or xylitol from the birch tree. Just that is number one, but slowly bring the sugars out and slowly wean down the coffees. Don't do that. Yeah.
Is that kombucha? Is that a fermented drink as well?
Kombucha, kombucha is fermented. It's 100% fermented yeast strains. To the best of my knowledge, we only need a small amount of yeast, beneficial yeast within our body. So I like to balance out the fermented probiotic drinks. I personally don't drink kombucha because I want to keep it balanced in my body. I don't want a huge amount of the yeast strains because that could unbalance me.
Right.
So I vary my probiotics.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Slowly wean down the sugars. Slowly get into feeding and nourishing your thyroid. Get into the B vitamins. Get that up and going. Have it each and every day.
Right. Awesome. So slowly eliminate the sugars and balance the thyroid.
Yeah, and the coffee. And also to change over the oils. So the vegetable oils like canola and soybean oils, safflower, all of that, they inflame our digestive tract and intestinal lining. Just change that over and do like extra virgin olive oil or unrefined coconut oil. You can cook and take that to a high heat. I do grass-fed butter, ghee, again, excellent for cooking in. So get out the bad oils and put in the good fats and oils and just keep drip feeding the beneficial probiotic drinks and powders and the vegetables.
What about rice bran oil?
No, not a good word.
Because it seems to be, I notice that a lot of people, or my family, either olive oil or rice bran. So I quite often use rice bran. So I was always interested of whether that, because I've always known that canola not so good, or the vegetable oils.
Yeah, none of that. So what you want is the extra virgin olive oil, and it's really good for on your salads or for a low heat. You never want to have the olive oil to a spitting heat because then it becomes unstable. That's why coconut oil and ghee is very good, because you can take it to a high heat and spit and it remains stable. So I always stay then with the olive oils, the grass-fed butters, the ghee, and you can get beautiful grass-fed butters, etc. over in New Zealand. I mean,
is that just like organic butter or just butter?
Organic grass-fed. So just inquire on where it's from there and get the grass-fed butter. Organic, though, is an excellent start. And you can get that anywhere.
Interesting. Very interesting. I'm just thinking about my kitchen going, oh, dear.
One of the principles of body ecology is we do it step by step. So instead of getting overwhelmed, just make one change a day or a week or a couple of changes a week, but just do it step by step, making the changes. The other thing too I wanted to add in, Victoria, we touched on once before, it's so prevalent now, and this is a good way of checking, signs for your body, is if you go to your nails, if you have vertical ridging on your nail, that potentially can be a deficiency with hyaluronic acid. If you've got big moons down the bottom of your nails, that's great because that's a nutritional status. So we want the big moons down the bottom. But if you've got flecks within your nails, white flecks, that can be a sign of a zinc deficiency. So a lot of the children I see have got the zinc deficiency. They've got the white fleck there. And the other thing too, and check with yourself and on your kids, if you just run your hand up the side of your arm, and if you've got, we call it chicken skin, that lumpy skin that's there, that can be a sign of deficiency of essential fatty acids, vitamin A, which can lead into asthma and allergies. So it's really important that this is smooth, and that the smooth nails, there's no ridging, that you've got nice moons on your fingernails down the bottom, and also too there's no white flecks with that zinc deficiency.
If we did have the flecks, because I know lots of kids do, I did as a kid, I always had little flecks. I thought it was from bumping them. Do you just...
But yeah, just check.
Yeah. So do you just... I've actually got white flecks in mine. Do we just Google like foods that have zinc in them, or do you need to go a little bit further and get a supplement?
You can take foods with zinc in it, that's fine. But I think at that stage, if you've got the white flecks there, you need to get onto a zinc supplement.
Okay.
And what I do is take the zinc on its own, so not part of a multivitamin. You want a zinc on its own. And also zinc can upset the gut, so make sure that you take it with food. Don't take it on an empty stomach. So I like to sandwich it, eat half my meal, then have the zinc and then finish it off, and it protects the lining of my gut. But I'm religious with zinc. I have zinc each and every day. It's great for the brain, gut and immune system. If you want to rebuild it, you've got to have zinc.
Oh, interesting. And if we had all of these type of deficiencies before we had our children. Do we kind
Yeah.
of pass them on to our kids or not?
Yes, we can. That's the shame of it. We can, not all the time, but we can pass them on. So you'll be prone. I mean, we do a lot of work with DNA, and then you'll see, like, there's a really interesting SNP, a gene. It's called the FUT2, F-U-T for Tom 2. And if you've got that, then you're not able to actually store bifidobacteria. So if you need bifidobacteria, it's essential for our brain, gut, and immune system. So just that one gene alone, if we've got an imbalance in that, it may, doesn't have to, but it may upregulate. And so we fail to actually hold onto our bifidobacteria. So we can pass on genetically, and we can pass on nutritional deficiencies as well. But the main thing is, if there's any cradle cap, colic, or reflux, you've got to get the gut back into balance again. That will be a sign of a yeast infection.
Mm. And so where do we find out about this ecology diet?
Yeah.
And if people are going, oh my gosh, I need that.
Yeah, gosh, it's so good. Everyone needs it. So they can contact me at yourdigestion.com.au, www.yourdigestion.com.au, or you can go over to Donna, who is the founder of Body Ecology Diet in the States. And if you go to www.bodyecologydiet.com, Donna is so generous there with recipes and information and articles. There's so much there to be able to glean from.
Right.
And I do consults worldwide on Skype and phone too. So
it's just crazy how we, especially from doing the summit, how we're functioning as a human race. It's like, yeah, exactly, like mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. No wonder we're getting ourselves in these hot messes. I've always thought, I'm from an average family. I've always, rich considering some of the countries. I always had food on the table and a roof over my head, and I got to wear shoes. I was lucky like that. And you think, how good are we doing? And then when we start thinking, you have a breakdown and you go, what is actually happening? And then you're like, oh my gosh, I've just abused the living daylights out of my body, my mind, my soul, everything, because we're really not looking after ourselves like we should. We're not respecting our body.
And the thing is too, if we don't look after our health, what do we have? We haven't got our health. We're really up the creek, because we need our health for everything. And it's only when people lose their health and they really do value it. So I get a lot of people come to me that have been everywhere, and they go, Maria, I'll do anything now. So don't let it get to that stage. Don't let it get to that stage, well, I'll do it now. Just make small, changes now, step by step, and then really appreciate the health that you do have.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Maria, you also have an amazing gift for us today. Could you please tell us what you're giving us?
Yes, so these are what we call transitional recipes. And with that is the snacks. So it's getting in there. And so if you're gently changing your diet around, so this is gently changing over the foods and weaning it into the body ecology diet. It's not 100% body ecology, it's a transitioning into body ecology. But they're great recipes, simple and
fantastic. Thank you so much. And we're going to have Maria's links to the free gift on her speakers page. So make sure you get the free gift and check out Maria's website. There'll be a link as well. And because this information is just, it's just so valuable. You can't even put a price on health or the information that you've shared with us today. So thank you so much. Now, do you have any final, anything final that you want to add?
The other thing too is, it's when we start getting into health, it can become so complex and so demanding. We've got to do this right. It's like, go out and enjoy life too. Go out, laugh each day, have fun, sleep well, have good relationships and connections to your family and partners and kids. Just enjoy life too.
You can have the health, but if you're miserable and you're obsessed with it, you're going to have you're going to create acid in a different way. Hey?
Exactly. Spiritually, mentally, physically, just enjoy life too.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure done.
I'm so glad to have met you. I've learnt so much. This is going to be, interview is going to be shipped left, right and centre to every person I know. And hopefully well, I know it's going to be worldwide.
We love this technology. It's wonderful.
Oh, it's amazing. Thank you so much, Maria. You have a lovely rest of your day.
You too. Enjoy. Stay warm.
Yes, thank you. You guys make sure that you tune in for tomorrow. And thank you, Maria. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye.